Hey, folks, I got Stu Heinecke here, author of two awesome books. You're not going to want to miss this.
This is the Franchise Pitfalls and Profit Show. Each week, we bring you the challenges and triumphs of being in the franchise development and consulting business. The things you need to make money faster. And now your host, one of the most successful franchise developers in North America, Don Shin.
Hey, Stu, welcome to the show. I appreciate you giving us some time.
Thank you for having me on. I'm pleased to join you.
Audience, I am really excited because Stu's books and his real genius is on the elephant in the room for us, and that is lead generation and getting quality appointments and getting in front of the right people. But I'm going to let him talk more about that. I'm going to ask him some other questions about business, but we're going to end on that note. So stay tuned, hang in there with us. But Stu, just tell us a little bit more about yourself. I know you as the author, and we're partnering in some stuff, and we've got some really strong common relationships. But how did you become an author? How did you get into business? Give us a little bit of an intro.
Sure, yeah. Well, my all of my education is in marketing, but I'm also a cartoonist. I have a really kind of crazy career arc. So, I wanted to. From very early on, I knew that I wanted to combine cartooning with marketing, and I wanted to create direct mail campaigns, direct response campaigns for the magazine publishers, the big magazine publishers that were so powerful when I was just getting out of college. And so, I've been using cartoons with personalization for a very long time. It's kind of a shtick. I mean, it just works really well. And that led me to becoming one of the Wall Street Journal cartoonists. I actually ended up mentoring with a lot of the great cartoonists from Playboy and the New Yorker. I don't know
cool.
I do know how it happened, but I look back and think, how on earth did that happen? But so Gahan Wilson and Eldon Dedini and Bob Mankoff from the New Yorker, he was the cartoon editor, and Leo Cullum and so on. I don't know if these names will mean anything, but they were just like, oh my God, I get to work with these guys. This is incredible.
Well, and that's and you were probably one of the originals then, because the cartoon art now is really common in business. The graphics and the drawing while somebody's voicing over. So
that's true.
Yeah, awesome.
That's true. There were several trends that we ended up starting. One of them was using personalized cartoons in direct mail. So if you've ever gotten a mailing and the cartoon was about you and it was funny, then it was probably from us. I'm not taking credit for being the only funny person around, but usually, we were imitated a lot and not well. So you have to give me a little there. But so one of the things I discovered was that when I sent a personalized cartoon to someone, just, because I wanted to introduce myself, I could reach just about anyone. And that was incredible. I mean, it was an unfair advantage because I could reach out and reach anyone. And when I first did it, I did it to launch my business into the publishing industry, and I got 100% response rate to that campaign. Wow. And it launched my business one campaign to 24 people. Wow. So I got really curious about all that. That led to writing one of my first books, How to Get a Meeting with Anyone. That book's a blast. I mean, just the things people have been doing to get meetings are incredible. So I use cartoons, but people use all kinds of things. And
hold that thought.
Yeah.
Again, most of our folks, we will get there, I promise.
Yeah.
But I want to jump in a little bit. My target audience are, for the most part, are either career coaches in one shape or another, one form or another. They're either owning a franchise of their own that they're recruiting people into as the franchisor. They might be a franchise broker or consultant that is definitely guiding people to certain brands. So I'm just always curious of successful people in business. What do you think it really takes to be successful in business? What should someone be thinking about and having? What characteristics maybe should they have if they're thinking about becoming a business owner?
Well, I would relate it to my latest book, if I may. So I just had one come out in June, how to grow your business like a weed. I don't know if it sounds like a serious book or not, but it's quite serious. We all know what it means to grow like a weed. And I wondered if there was if there was a model that all of the weeds followed, and if there was, it was a model that we can apply, and there is. So to answer your question, I'm going to answer it in terms of the weed strategy, because
Yeah.
we know what we can see what they do. They're wow, my God, they're so effective at growing and picking up new turf and so on, spreading. So their model is what I believe is necessary to succeed in business. So they leverage a fierce mindset and unfair advantages against collective scale. And they do it according to a process that is well honed. I mean, in their case, it's millions of years old, but it's also alive. It's constantly changing. It's constantly adapting to whatever challenges arise. Actually, it's how they evolve. And so for us in business, I think one of the critical things is to have an unfair advantage or lots of unfair advantages. And we can talk about I'll give you a couple of examples if you'd like.
Yeah, that'd be great. And I think that's great.
Well, I mean, like one of them is I'm one of the Wall Street Journal cartoonists. If I send a cartoon to a CEO and I reach out to the CEO's assistant to say, hey, I'm sending this thing. Just want to let you know about it. Well, I'm calling up and I'm saying, hi, I'm Stu Heinecke. I'm one of the Wall Street Journal cartoonists. We don't know each other. Your boss doesn't know me, but I'm sending a print of one of my cartoons and it's about your boss. And so I want it to be a surprise to your boss, but not to you. And usually the assistants are saying, what? Oh, okay. So just being able to reach out and do that, or when my cartoons do appear in the journal, then I'm reaching 2.1 million readers. That's a great brand builder, I would say.
Yeah.
So that's one. I've got a lot of them, but we want to be creating a lot of unfair advantages in our businesses. And the other one is that this is the one that I think probably shows up the most from weed strategy, and so naturally it's my strategy as well, is collaboration. So isn't that interesting? Because both of those things are they're just totally built into the franchise model.
Yeah. And I think sometimes the collaboration to me is a very abundant mindset, and I think a lot of times people in business they're so scarcity minded. They think if they talk to somebody else or they involve somebody else, they have the chance to lose something, and they're not thinking about the opportunity to spread and to grow. As you're saying, again, I love the weed and the visual on the weed, but they're not thinking about the spreading and the growing that collaboration could really affect. So I think that's awesome. I think
it's the key, because otherwise we toil under one-to-one leverage. That's kind of what comes naturally to us. And for example, franchises are the opposite of one-to-one leverage. You've got a lot of people. There are a lot of smart people involved in the team of franchisees. Everyone's working from the same process, but everyone's evolving that process. It's an incredible. All of it's kind of an incredible unfair advantage.
Yeah, I used to once in a while get some pushback from a prospect, and they would say, well, why can't I just do this myself? And they're not.
You really want to.
Yeah, exactly. But you use the word leverage. You surely lose that leverage of more people pulling in the same direction.
Yeah, and if you're with a franchise, then you start with an established brand. I mean, like someone who's saying, "Why can't I do this myself?" is absolutely lost in one-to-one leverage.
Yeah,
but if you just step into a franchise with a powerful brand, what an unfair advantage! I mean, that's one of many, but what a great unfair advantage.
Now, is there would you say that anybody comes to mind from the standpoint of who shouldn't go into business for themselves? Kind of the flip side of that.
Well, I mean, you have to be very resilient. You got to be optimistic and persistent, and you got to have the right mindset, or nothing's going to happen. But even at that, if we're just talking about people going into business in general, I think 90% of new businesses fail within the first year. Isn't it something like that? I think that's the
restaurants are, I think, as high as 90. I think overall it's about 40 to 50% fail in the first year and 80 to 90 in 5 years.
Okay, yeah,
So,
yeah.
yep.
So, chances are pretty good that that your company won't make it again, unless you act like a weed, really.
Yep.
If you use weed strategy, then you have a much better chance because you're understanding then what it is you need to focus on to make your business not just survive. Nobody wants to just survive. So
Right.
to make it to
Oh, I
thrive.
went into business to just survive.
Yeah, I was thinking, I wanted to hang out. So
Well, let me switch on you a little
yeah,
bit here,
right.
and just looking at business overall right now. Um, and, you're in all kinds of different circles. I know, and so anything coming to mind right now that's trending as we're moving into a new year? Anything come to mind that's trending or that you're advising people to be cognizant of or doing as
Yeah.
we go into a new year?
Yeah, I mean, I think there are a bunch of these, but I think the big one is we're heading to a recession, and it may or may not be acknowledged yet, and there are some encouraging signs as well that keep popping up. So who knows? Maybe we'll avoid one in the short term. I don't think so. I mean, inflation is quite high. A lot of things. The Fed
Yeah.
is clamping down. So I would say we're heading into a recession, and so you need to be thinking about, well, okay, what am I going to do? How am I going to deal with a recession? And I would say a lot of that is done for you in a franchise. I mean, you've got some very smart people at the top working on that. But I would say that as you head into recessionary times, it seems to me, I don't know, I'm going back to the weed strategy again, but it seems to me that weeds thrive best in disrupted ground. I mean, that's our yards, our gardens, our farmland, et cetera. They
Yeah.
thrive best when there's disruption.
Yeah.
And so I think that the application of weed strategy sort of creates that for us as well. You've got to be smart about it. There are a lot of wrong decisions you can make still, but if you're going in and you're saying, I need to have this, I need to do what I need to do to have the mindset that I'm going to thrive during a recession, and then I need to be building these unfair advantages. What are they? What are my unfair advantages, and what other unfair advantages can I create? And of course, again, a lot of that's done for you in the franchise model, but that still doesn't. You still need to be doing more. The franchise needs to evolve as well, and that's how it evolves. And
Yeah, I think recessions or down economies. Some people are in businesses that thrive in those scenarios, and I think for other people, it's a time to regroup. And I love your unfair advantages. So for some businesses, I think it's their time to say, hey, my competition is just going to batten down the hatches and do nothing.
yes,
I'm going to start looking for these unfair advantages.
yeah, absolutely.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
All right, so let's go to the book real specifically. I'm
Sure.
just dying to get some specific strategies. I know the two books kind of dovetail a little bit. So let's talk about some of the key things that people will be able to take away from the books.
Well, so do you want to talk about how to get a meeting with anyone first?
Yeah, I think that's great
Okay.
because again,
Yeah.
you and I were talking offline. The elephant in the room is nobody in franchising likes to admit it, but and I've been in this industry 22 years. People still are struggling with getting leads, and then if they do get a lead, how do they get in front of that person? So absolutely, I think that's a great place to start.
Sure. Well, so how to get a meeting with anyone? This is what it looks like. Here's the book, and this one came about because I started sending cartoons around to people, and I presidents and prime. I thought, well, that was amazing. I just got through to all the publishers long ago. Who else can I reach? And I started reaching out to presidents and prime ministers, celebrities, and all sorts of top level decision makers, and I was breaking through a lot. And I was I was just amazed, and then I started getting curious about, well, what's everyone else doing? Because we all look. If you can't get meetings, you can't sell. So
Right.
nothing happens actually if you can't get meetings. So what are people doing? What have they been doing to meet that challenge? And oh my God, Don, I was hearing them. I started picking up the most amazing stories. There are such great stories. One guy used a pigeon to reach, I can't say his name, but one of the most famous, one of the most famous CEOs of all. Someone else used a Facebook ad, $28 Facebook ad, and they created a breakthrough with the right buyer at Walmart, and they created a $20 million effect or result from a $28 ad, contact ad. It was amazing. So there are all these really crazy stories of what people have been doing to reach out to the people that have the kind of marketing I'm talking about here is not mass marketing at all, but these are, if that's scattershot, then these are sniper shots. And so we're focusing on the people that might be the 1%, top 1% or 20%, whatever it is, who can the prospects who can change everything if you can get in touch with them, get in front of them, and they become, I don't know, either clients, or maybe they become franchisees, or they become something else, some sort of maybe a referral source or some other strategic partner. But these are the people that can change everything. They have the scale that they have the ability to change your scale. And those are the ones that we focus on when we send out these contact devices. So I still use cartoons. I still do that with a lot of my clients. And would it help to show what one of these looks like?
Sure. Yeah. If you can, yeah.
I'll just have it right
Absolutely.
here. But so this is what I call a big board. And so it's an 18 by 24 inch, quarter-inch thick foam core board. And so on one side, there's a cartoon. It's kind of hard to fit it all in, but there's a cartoon. It's personalized. It's about the recipient. And then on the back is the branding and the messaging from the sender to the recipient, explaining who they are, why they want to meet, and next steps.
Awesome.
And that gets sent in packaging like this. So
wow.
The air bill goes there, and that's what it looks. It looks like something from a cartoon art gallery, and there are crush zones in there to hold it all together. And that's so cool. That's pretty cool. I sent one of these to Ed Bastian. Now, I don't know if you know his name. He's the CEO of Delta Airlines.
Okay.
And just the other day, I sent it to him 3 years ago, and I got a nice note back from him, an introduction to their CMO. But about 2 weeks ago, actually, a friend saw a post on LinkedIn that showed, that showed Ed Bastian in his office, and he's holding a cup of Starbucks coffee. And you think, okay, well, I guess he's drinking his coffee. But no, that was there to announce that they had this new deal going with Starbucks. So it's a new. There it is. Collaborations are huge. They're a huge part of this model. So here's a new collaboration between Delta Airlines and Starbucks. But my friend pointed out in the picture where he's standing in his office, right next to him is my cartoon. Still, it's on his credenza.
Wow. Wow.
So look at that. I mean, we reach out to people all the time, and we want to get their attention. Maybe we leave them a phone, or maybe we call them, and maybe we leave them a voicemail. Maybe we send them an email. But how many things have you done, or how many things could you do to reach out and say, hey, Ed, I'd like to connect, and have it stick around in the person's office on their credenza for years? So those are the kinds of things that we focus on in contact marketing, and in that book, and how to get a meeting with anyone.
Yeah, I think that's incredible. Anything that like you said sticks around is incredible, because and I don't remember all the percentages, specific numbers, but there's a percentage of people that are not in the market for what you do or what somebody does, and that's the big percentage. That might be 70%, and then there's 30% that are in the market for what you do, but not right now. And so maybe only 5 or 10 or 15% of your people, or the people you're reaching out to, need what you do now. So the fact that something sticks around is incredible, because eventually you wouldn't be reaching out to them, and if you didn't know eventually they're going to need what you do. So if it's not something that sticks around, then they're going to forget you ever contacted them.
Yeah, they won't know who you are. I mean, you just interrupted them quickly, and then you're gone.
Yeah. Incredible. So strategies like a weed, or grow your business like a weed. we've got franchisors. We've got what we call emerging brand franchisors. Watch my show. They have a franchise concept and it's systematized, but boy, do they need guidance about growth. You talked about effective growth. You talked about spreading. Boy, they would love to spread. So talk a little bit about the latest book.
Yeah, well, I'll show it first. So there it is. There we go. Now you can read it.
Yep.
How to Grow Your Business Like a Weed. I love this book. Now, I mean, the other book, the How to Get a Meeting with Anyone, that book it had such an effect out in the world. I mean, companies were started because of it, and people were telling me that they bought it and their careers changed, or they went out and they made $300,000 after just using one of the tactics in the book. So that's cool. I mean, I love How to Get a Meeting with Anyone. It's a great book. But How to Grow Your Business Like a Weed has been, I think, it's just been a work of passion for me. You know, I was driving down the freeway a long time ago and I spotted a dandelion growing out of a crack in the concrete median of the freeway. And it just got me thinking, what are they doing? How do they end up there? Well, we know how they end up there. They just, it's a dandelion. The seeds blow around and they probe every possible opportunity to take root, which is what we should be doing as entrepreneurs. And I saw that and I thought, well, it looked happy just sitting there bouncing around in the smoggy breeze. And what is it doing though? What is it up to? Why are dandelions doing that, but not apple trees? There are a lot of plants that don't end up in those cracks, and really because there are a lot of plants that don't do the work that dandelions do or weeds do, and they don't do it in the way that I want to call it smart, but they didn't. I don't know. It is part of their evolution, but they just have these incredible unfair advantages. For example, they have seeds that fly around for miles, and they just they're kind of like dust. They just probe every possible opportunity to take root. So I wondered, is there a model that the weeds all follow? And if there is, can we apply it to our business? And it turns out there is a model, and they do. It is applicable to business. Actually, I think it's sort of the theory of everything about growing anything. And I think it's also the theory of growing and thriving during recessions, as I mentioned earlier. So it's an incredibly powerful model. And if you think about, let's say, just the nature of weeds, they deal with what is. They don't have emotions. They don't let all these silly things get in their way. They don't worry about what they deserved and should have had, and I don't know. They don't, if they have a setback, they just keep going. So that incredible mindset that they have. So they deal with what is. Yep. They never do anything without an unfair advantage. They never do anything alone. They're always operating at scale. And then they always focus on what makes them win. Because I've got to say, that's a great that's a great description of what anyone should be if they're going to be an entrepreneur. But I think it's even a better description of what it means to be just what a franchise is. Yeah. I'm just so impressed with franchises, and it all changed for me as I did this work on this book, because I just realized, my God, I think franchises are probably the most weed-like business structure there is.
Yeah. I mean, the more you and I have talked about that, the more that sinks in. Absolutely. All right, Stu, in closing, and by the way, everybody, go to Stu's website, please. You could get the first 2 chapters of the book. Awesome book. So you're gonna want to do that. Last question I always like to ask folks, Stu, is there anything else that we haven't talked about? My questions haven't prompted, but again, you know our audience. Anything else you would want somebody to know from you as far as getting into business for themselves, or the career coaches helping someone get into business for themselves? But is there anything that we haven't talked about today that you'd like to be sure got said today?
Well, I hope you don't hate me for this, but as a young solopreneur, I've been a solopreneur my whole career. And I was creating cartoons, creating campaigns for Time Inc. and the New Yorker and all these, the NHL and the NBA and so on. And I thought, man, I got to admit, this is really kind of, I can't believe what's happening in my life. This is so cool. And I used to think of franchises as being sort of the opposite of that that spirit because everything is defined and you're in a group and so on. And it wasn't until writing this book, researching it, writing the book, that I realized, no, if you want to go into business and if you want to thrive right away, it seems to me that a franchise is the way to do it. And I'm not saying it's the easiest way to do it, but I am saying that there's a black box that's already built for you, that already has the process in it, already has a lot of the problems that you would have ordinarily knocked into and said, okay, now I need to figure this out. They've already been figured out.
Yep.
And then you're part of this, just like, if you notice a dandelion in your lawn, look up and you'll see that there's lots of them. There's dozens, maybe hundreds of them. They never show up alone. They work.
That's true.
They collaborate. That's what they do. And so a franchise gives you the opportunity to do that immediately. So I think actually franchising might be the smartest way to get into business.
Well, I love that you're saying that, because you're preaching to the choir from the standpoint of me and some of our audience. And I think you're absolutely right. I think it allows highly successful people that weren't quite sure what they could do. It allows them to get into business that they would not have gotten into by themselves. And I think it's also something to know that, and I get into this conversation sometimes with people, but I think it's a good point, and that is that owning a franchise, you're still a business owner. Don't miss out on that. You're still a small business owner in a lot of cases, although individual franchise units, or if somebody buys more than one, starts to get up in the multi-millions of dollars. But generally speaking, you are a business owner. It's just you've gone into it in a different way, and you've gone into it, as you said, maybe is the smartest way, because you're in business by yourself, or for yourself, but not by yourself. And I think that's a great point. Okay, folks. So I'm going to wrap up here. Stu, we really appreciate your being on. Effective growth and spreading are keys. Take every opportunity to take root somewhere. This is another lesson from today. And deal with what is. The dandelion seeds go everywhere, and they deal with wherever they've gone. And look for those unfair advantages. Stu, thanks for being on the show with us.
Thank you.